Hey everyone, this is Dave from Cabrinha, and today I'm going to go through a video on a complete breakdown and rebuild of the UNIFY control system. The reason for this video is we're going to cover every spare part which is available. I'm going to show you how you would take the system apart and then how to put it back together. It's going to be a long video, but what's going to make it easier for you is we're going to put some timestamps in the bottom which will link to the specific parts. Let's get it going. Okay, so things you're going to need for this breakdown and rebuild. Obviously, you're going to need a UNIFY bar. You're going to need the kit which comes with the UNIFY, and then a few other little tools. I've got some old Kite line. I've just got a spike or something with a pointed end. I need a Phillips screwdriver. Then the last piece is just a thin piece of but strong twine or thread. Okay, so let's give it a go. What I'm going to do to start with, I'm just going to open up the kit and get out the parts which we need for this. So inside there's two envelopes. You can feel in one of them there's going to be like an Allen key, and that's the one we're going to open at the moment. So I'm just going to open that up. Here's our Allen key. I'm just going to place it on the side. I'm going to move these away for later. Okay, so step one, first thing we're going to do, we've laid out our bar and lines, everything's all set and ready to go. I'm going to pull out the flagging line and I'm going to start on that one. So starting from the QR, I'm going to grab the flagging line and I'm just going to pull that until it comes all the way out, down the bottom. First thing is, I'm just going to slide this up. I'm going to take this black tube and I'm going to slide that up. And then now that's slid up, I can undo this lark's head knot. Okay, I pass that over the ring, and then I can just pull that through. Just going to place, as we go along, we'll place all these parts on the side because we're going to need them again later. Okay, I take the black stopper, I'm going to slide that off. Then the last part, the flagging line, is undoing this knot. So this lark's head, I'm just going to loosen it off and pull that out. Okay, step one done. Okay, moving on from there, the next thing we're going to look at is we're going to disconnect the rear lines. So to do that, you're going to go to your bar ends and you're going to work your way up the leader line, which is the section which goes from the bar end to the front line. So you get to the connection, and we're just going to loosen those lark's head connections. Okay, I'm just going to do the other side as well. Okay, and then I'm just going to pull these lines through. Okay, so now I'm getting near the end. Just going to pull these lines through. And then you can slide the other end off the leader lines. And that's your rear lines disconnected. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to remove these leader lines. So to do this, in the bottom of the bar, there's a little metal ring. And what we're going to need to do is pull that out. So you're going to pull that out, and you're going to notice the same lark's head connection as what we had on the bottom of the flagging line. And we're going to pass that back over the ring again, and then we can pull that off. Okay, I'm just going to do that on the other side, and then we'll pull the lines out. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this leader line through. If you find this is pretty tough to do, you can also put a little bit of soap on here and it'll help pull that line. Okay, so we've got one leader line. Let's do the other side. Okay, so both lines are out. Okay, next thing we're going to move to is the front lines. We're going to separate these now. So one of them is really easy. It's the flag. You've already got the flagging line. I'm just going to remove the ring from the bottom. And all I have to do on this one is just pull this line back out the system. Okay, once that's through, at the front split, I can just pull the line. You're just going to make sure on the line here that you undo the twist, which is in the end of that lark's head, which was used as a special stopper knot, which we'll go through later when we reassemble. And we're just going to pull that. It'll take a little bit of force. And that's out. So that's one front line out. Let's work on the other one. So this is the fixed line, and what you're going to notice, there's a little black tail on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that out. Another lark's head knot. We're just going to disconnect that lark's head. Slide over the line. Put this aside for later. And then we can remove the other front line. Okay, so we're really breaking this down a lot now. All the lines are out. Next thing we're going to work on is the control system part. Let's break down the trim system next. First thing we need to do on the trim system is we're just going to undo the handle from here. So using the tool which we found, which came in the brown envelope earlier, the Allen key, I'm just going to undo this bolt. Okay. It allows me to remove that. And then on the inside, I'm just going to take this knot, pull it out from the handle, and we're just going to undo this knot. It's going to be pretty tight because this has been loaded pretty heavily in production, but just work it loose. Okay. Then I'm going to take the handle and pull that off, set that aside, take the stopper, slide that off, and then from here what I can do is I can fully remove this from the splitter, and now we're left to remove the line. Okay, so to remove this line, we're going to have to get out our Phillips head screwdriver, and inside the cleat there's 2 bolts, and we're just going to unscrew these 2 bolts. Okay, so as I take this apart, you notice a few things. There's a small metal spacer. You put that to the side. We've got the 2 screws and the cleat. Move those to the side as well. And then we have a Velcro wrap, which is used to tether the end of your leash. Just pull that off. Okay, to remove a trim line, all it is secured around the inner block here. You just lift it up. That's your trim line separated. Okay, next part, we're going to take the D-power main lines out of the bar itself. So step 1 of this one, we're going to get our Allen key again, and you notice a small grub screw here, the stopper ball. We're going to loosen that off. So we slide that stopper ball down and make it loose. And then what we're going to do, I'm just going to use that spike we've got here, and I'm just going to flick off the line, which is around the base inside the cleat, and then that line can pull out. Okay, we're going to slide that stopper ball off the system, and a small piece of PU tube which came with it, and that one line is now separated. Now we're just going to take the block off which secures the cleat. You notice on the inside of that, now we've got everything out of the way, there's a small screw. So just using that Phillips head screwdriver, we're just going to undo that screw. And then we're going to remove this cleat. So this has been glued in, so this may take a little bit of force to do, but eventually it'll just work its way loose. Okay. So now the cleat's off, the block's off, and we can now fully separate the D-power mainline from the bar. Okay, so all we've got left now, we've got the D-power mainlines attached to the quick release system. So we're going to go back to our Allen key, and I'm going to undo these two bolts. These are long bolts, so this takes a little while to do, but just keep with it because they go all the way through that block. So okay, so the two bolts are out. What I'm going to do now is just pull this apart. So separated the part, and in here, pull these as separate, open up the bottom, and we just got the tubes on the inside. So here we can just remove those tubes. So we're just going to pull from the bottom, and what you're going to see, there's a collar on that part. So that can come out. And then for the other side, just make sure that's loose. You just pull. Okay. Pull it out. Now we're separated. D-power mainline's done. Last thing we're going to look at is the QR. So the first part's pretty easy. I'm just going to open the QR up. I'm going to release the handle. We can take the main shaft, will just drop straight out. And what you can find on the main shaft is we've got some washers and bearings. So just keep these to the side. These are enclosed bearings so that you're not going to lose them, which is really nice. But there's a Teflon washer, then there's the base, the runner, the bearings, and the top runner. So we'll just put those to the side. Put the shaft on the side. So now we took that out, I'm just going to show you the next step, which will be how you would replace those bungees. Because when you get your kit, in one of those brown envelopes, you'll feel it in there, is 3 bungees and a ring. This ring's for the high V setup, which we covered in another video, which you can click to in this link here. So we're just going to put that aside because you don't need it now. But these are the bungees which you can replace inside the system. So to replace the bungees, first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out each of these 2 bungees which are used to hold down the cover. So just use your point, your spiky point. You're just going to put that in and wiggle them out. Okay, and one's pinged off. And what you can see, they actually come out the top pretty easily. I'll do the same on the other side. Okay, and the cover can come off if you want. These bungees can actually be removed without splitting down the whole control system. To do that, it's just a case of lifting up the cover up and replacing it that way. But this is a full breakdown, so we've done it this method. The last one is to take out the bungee here. So just use your spike to ping it off. Okay, so that's the bungees out. Completely last thing we're going to do is if you're going to replace your loop. So to do the loop, lift up the cover, take your Allen key, which we've used before, and you're just going to unwind. Put the pole aside. And what I can do now is just pull out the loop. So once you've done this, we're going to work through rebuilding it. This is how you'd replace your loop or your security pin. Okay, and that's it. That's the complete breakdown done of all the spare parts. Next step is putting it all back together, and we're going to go in reverse and cover each step one by one. Okay, so let's rebuild this. So I'm going to start with, pretty much going in reverse order, start with the loop. I'm just going to lift the QR up a little bit to access the screw. So the loop on one end has a ring and a line and the safety, the security pin. So that's the side which goes into the round section. So you just place that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bolts. The good thing, all the bolts we've used, the 3 which we've removed, are all the same size. So that makes it a lot easier. And we're just going to start that threading motion and then use our Allen key to tighten that down. Okay, so you're going to tighten this all the way through so the bolt is fully sitting inside the body. Just check on the other side to make sure it hasn't come out. And what you're going to see is it's close. There you go. Even on both sides. So that's our loop attached. Okay, from there, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our white bungee. And this is used to hold the pin down. So you lift up the cover and you're going to notice there's a section here which we can put the bungee into. So starting on one side, you just place the clip in. We're going to press it over the top. And this is a little bit easier if you've got pliers. I find this a little bit easier to just grab the end of the bungee on the other side. You're going to lift it over. And on the other side, there's another square. And you can see, if I take the cover off, you can see both sides of that. Okay. Okay. If the cover does come off, the one thing we've got to check, well, you're going to notice on the body there's 2 channels running down, and on the top you're going to see 2 holes. You got to make sure those channels are on the side of those holes, and then the whole system will go back together, just like so. Okay, so next section is we're going to take the black bungees and we're going to put those back in to make this QR sit down. So you're going to take them and you're going to go in from the top of the QR body. And you're going to see, as you look down on the inside, there's a straight channel for these to go in on. So you just kind of wiggle them around until they drop. And then to stop it going all the way down, you just give it a little twist at the end. Like so. And I'm going to do that for the other side as well. Okay, I'm going to take my pliers again, and I'm just going to reach inside and grab the end of the bungee. I'm going to pull it over the channel and just let it go. I'm going to do the same thing now on the other side. So you reach inside, pull that down, and let it just go into the section on the bottom. Okay, what you want to do now, just check that works. You're going to take your other side of your loop. It should click in and it should release. Okay, so that's the first part done. Bungees are reinstalled, the loop's been put in. Next step from here is we're going to put the main shaft back in. And to do that, we also need to make sure we include the washers. So we're going to start with the Teflon washer. The small Teflon washer, that goes on first. And then you're going to put a runner with the dent. There's a ridge in here. That's got to face upwards. It goes on second. The bearings, they can go either way. And then the last part is the second piece with the runner. That's going to go with the runner facing down. Okay. And then that's ready to just push up and through the body. Okay, so now we've got that ready. I'm just going to move this to the side. The next thing we're going to start to do is assembling the spinning handle, which is going to go on top of the QR. So the first part of this is we're going to take our D-power main line. So that's the part with the 2 loops on it. What you're going to find is one end has a dent in it, which is where the stopper ball is. That's the top. We're going to go from the bottom side. So this is going to go down into the top part of the spinning handle, the piece which has got the 2 holes in it. And the hole we're going to be using, if you look on the bottom, there's a channel. That's where this line is going to come out. and sit around this ridge here. So using your thread, if you've got a piece of fine thread, this makes it a little bit easier because it's definitely a little tight. You're just going to put your thread through. You're going to pass it down that one hole. Okay, so to pass the thread through, and we're going to pull that until the line comes through here. Now what we need to do is we need to get this line over the body, and you can see it's pretty tight. So the easiest thing to do now is just put a spike through so you got something to hold onto that loop. And we're going to squeeze the tube into this hole. And as you can see now, that's opened up a lot more space for this line to go over. And from here, you should be able to just give it a little pull. And we're going to sit that over the top of the ridge. Okay, so you're just going to feed it over until in the end you're going to see it sits all the way around that edge there. Next part we're going to do is we're going to take our flagging line tube, and as I showed before, there's one side that's got a lump, like a collar on it, so that's going to go on the base. So starting the other way, we're going to take this part, the other end is going to go up through the hole, and you're going to pull this down, make sure that tube sits in, and just give it a pull until it's flush on it, nice and tight on the inside. And the tube will stick out the bottom because this is what's going to go down into the main shaft. Okay, so right, now we're going to assemble it all together. So we take the bottom of the spinning handle and we're going to place that over the shaft. Now what you're going to see is on the shaft there's two channels, one on each side, and you want those to line up with the holes which are on here. So what I find is easier is I put my thumb over the base to hold it in place. I can drop that on there, and then we're going to take the top section and we're just going to feed the tube into the main shaft, line up the holes, just squeeze those two parts together. Okay, so you're just going to squeeze those two parts together until they sit like this. Then you're going to check through and just make sure it's still aligned. And we're going to take our two remaining bolts. I'm just going to go screw those back in. If you keep your thumb on the base, it's a good thing because it stops that main shaft from spinning around. Okay, I'm just going to put the other side in and start the other side as well. Okay, so you're just going to tighten these up. And you check on both sides. Try to make it even on both sides as to where the bolt is. So you can see it's sitting just inside of here. It's just inside on the other part. Okay, and that's your QR and the D-power main lines and the flagging line all sorted out. Okay, so from here now we're going to place this into the bar. So with the flagging line side, that's going to go on the bottom of the bar. So make sure your bar is the right way around. White is on the left, black is on the right. Flagging line is going to go into the base. And then D-power main line is going to go through the upper hole, because you see we have two holes on the bar. Okay, from here we're going to start reassembling the trim system and all the bits which go with that. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to take our block. So this is the block which holds the D-power main line. So to do that I'm going to take my kite line. I'm just going to pass it through the end of the D-power main line. And then I'm going to take my stopper ball And you're going to see the stopper ball's got two sides to it. It's got a narrow diameter and a wide diameter. The wide diameter is going to go face towards the bar. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling this through. So place the line up through the wide side. You're going to pull that down and over onto the tube. Okay, keeping our line attached, we're now going to go up into the block. So from this side, there's two holes here. One is for the trim line, and the other one goes up to this recess here where the line's going to sit around. So just put the ends of your kite line through. And we're going to pull that line up. Take a little wiggle to do it. And onto this part, and you're going to put as much purchase as you can. Pull that out, and then what we want to do is we want to clamp this ball down. Okay, so from here, I'm going to clamp that down to hold it. Okay, finger tight. Then we're going to pull that line, and using our spike, I'm just going to try to make sure that sits over the block which is underneath. So here you can give it a little bit of leverage. Remove my kite line to make it easier. Okay, so you see what I've been doing here is I've just been like sliding this over to make sure the D-power main line sits on the top of that block, and just poke it down with the spike. Okay, next section we're going to take the flagging line tube and we're going to insert that into the back of this block. Okay, so you're going to make sure when you do this that the lines are not twisted, because if they are twisted and you reassemble this, it's going to remain twisted. But what you're going to see is this piece is being cut on a taper, and that's what's going to sit on the inside of the block. So from here, I'm going to go from the bottom, I'm going to slide that up and just push it to the top. If you have a bit of super glue, you can dab a bit of super glue in here to hold it in place. But what you're going to notice on the inside, there's a small hole, and this is where that little screw is going to go. So you can take your screwdriver, I'm just going to screw that back in, finger tight. Don't over tighten this because you'll be able to go through the thread, and that part's in. Okay, so now we've got a D-power main line, our flagging tubes assembled. We're going to move on to the next step, which is reattaching the trim line and the cleat. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the trim line, and we've got two ends on this trim line. So one with a piece of webbing on it, that's going to go into the handle, and the other with the loop. So the loop part, we're just going to place that over the slot in here, and that's on. And then the next step from here is we're going to need our webbing, a metal spacer, our cleat, and the two screws. Okay, so now we're just going to make sure the Velcro is wrapped around. We're going to take our cleat, make sure it's pointing down, place that on the top, and we're going to put our screws in. So starting on the bottom one, just going to screw this down and through. Okay, this one you want to get pretty tight. Okay, you're going to take the other screw and do the same on the top section. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our splitter here. I'm just going to finish the whole trim section. So from here I'm going to take my line. It's going to go up through the bottom of the splitter and come out the top. The reason you do it this way is you want to make sure it's in line so the trim line sits above. So, and then we're going to take this line down, I'm going to put it through. Okay, here we're going to need our stopper. You notice this one has got a notch cut out of it and our handle. So you take our ribbon. What I find easier is we fold that in half, and the first thing we're going to do is going to slide on the stopper. So the stopper's got two sides to it. You're going to go through the small hole first. You slide that down, and then we're going to take that ribbon and we're going to pass it through the handle from the bottom. Okay, we're going to just pull that through. What we're going to do is we're going to fold this part down here, and you're just going to do a simple knot and pull that through and make sure that's sitting tight, and you'll end up with just a basic knot like that. From here we're going to pull the handle down. We're going to take our stopper ball, and you see it's got these notches. Those are going to line up with the handle, and we're just going to take our Allen key and tighten that part up. Okay, and there we have it. We've got our trim handle all assembled. Last thing to do now is we're going to start attaching the lines. So I'm actually going to do the leader lines first to get those out of the way. So you got two leaders, one white one black one. Obviously corresponds to which side of the bar you need to pull it through. So I'm going to start on the white side. Okay, on the leader line, got two ends. You got a loop on one end and a long piece on the other. This is the part which goes towards the kite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my kite line. I'm just going to pass this down from the top of the bar end. I'm going to pass it through the end of the leader line and then back up. This is where kite line is really good because there's normally some rigidity to it, so it pulls through pretty easy. Okay, and with that, I'm just going to pull the line up to get it moved in. Before I pull this too far, what I want to do is I make sure I put the piece on the bottom which stops it pulling through the bar. So you're going to take your T-ring here, and the way we're going to assemble this is you're going to pass the end of the line up through one side, down through the other side, so it sits across that bar, and then you take that loop and we're going to fold it back upon itself, and you'll be able to pull that tight. So now that's on. Now that's on, I can now take the leader line and pull that all the way through until it's seated in the base. I'm going to repeat that same process for the black side. Okay, so now our lead lines are attached. Okay, next step is we're going to take our front lines and we're going to attach them into the front line splitter. Okay, so I've got my two front lines here. Okay, one of them is going to go onto the side here. So to get it through this hole, it's going to be a little hard to do. So this is where we go back to our thin thread again. We're going to pass that down. And from here we're going to be able to pull that kite line down through the part. And this is the one which we're going to stop. So this isn't going to be the flagging line. So we're going to take our small loop here, the stopper piece, and this is just going to be a lark's head. So it's going to go over. You're going to take your kite line, pass it over there, pull it back, It's a lark's head knot, and then we can pull that up and make it sit in that part. Okay, so for the other front line, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use that thread to pull it down through. Okay, and then this one, what we're going to be doing, this one's going to travel down through the whole flagging line side. And the good thing is, with kite line, it's got that rigidity, so we don't need to really pull it through. We're just going to poke it through the bottom here, and it goes into the tube. And we're just going to feed that all the way down through. Until it comes out at the bottom right here. Okay, next step now is we're going to attach our bungee line. Okay, so the bungee line, it's got two parts. We've still got a piece of tubing. This is what's going to go on the base. This is where you're going to attach your leash to. So you're going to take the other side. And then this attachment is a little bit different. So you start by doing a normal lark's head knot. So I'm just going to paste the one line over the other, over the fly line. I'm going to pull this through. Before you finish that, what you're going to do is you're going to twist the fly line again. So you're going to do a 180-degree twist on the flying line. And you're going to take the end of the bungee and we're going to poke that back through that end. Okay, and what you're going to end up with is this twisted lark's head knot, which sits perfectly up and well against the inside of the stopper. Okay, so it should look like that at the end. Okay, from here, take the other end. First thing we're going to do is we're going to pass it through the leash connection ring. So it's going to sit there. Then we're going to pass it through top of the stopper. So you see we're building this part back up on the base now. Then the last bit is we're going to take T-ring and do the same method we did on the other side, where you pass it up over, back down on itself, around, and then from here you're going to take that tubing and you're going to slide that down. It's pretty tight to do, but you want to slide it down, keep it nice and firm. Okay, and then we're just going to go back to the top of that flagging line and we're going to pull that up until it's all done. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do is we're going to attach our rear lines. You got one end of the lines and the other end's got your line connectors. So on the black side, we're going to take the black line. With the black line connector, we're going to place it over the end of the leader line. And then from here, you're just going to bend the flying line. We're going to pull that side through. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do exactly the same thing on the other side, and then I can pull both lines through at the same time, which makes it a lot easier. There's one side done, and we'll just pull through the other side. No, so both sides done. So now everything's reconnected and the system's pretty much ready to go. What I recommend everyone to do now is, when you get the chance, is to take your system outside, attach it, and just make sure the deployment runs smoothly. So you want to make sure that flagging line is able to pull down and through and reset correctly. And then also want to make sure that your lines are even and so on. But that's it. So I say there's timestamps below which are going to help you go to each of those components and the breakdown and then the rebuild. And if you've got any questions at all, go to cabrinha.com, check out the YouTube channel for more tech tip videos, and see you guys on the water. Cheers.